is the third webcast in our document management webcast series. I'm Jason Gumpert from msdynamicsworld.com, and I'm really pleased to have all of you here with us today. We really do have quite a session planned on the topic of managing invoices at one of the largest scales that any finance professional might ever need or want to imagine. The Home Depot handles 30 million invoices annually, and transformation of their process from manual to automated is quite a story. I am pleased that we have with us the Home Depot's Senior Manager of Finance, Deborah Rich-Walker, who was key to this project, and she is a veteran of the company's finance organization. She's also a certified AP professional and recently served as the president for the Georgia chapter of Finance Operations Institute for the last 4 years. We'll leave time at the end for your questions, so you can enter those anytime in the Q&A block that you will see on the right. Please feel free to enter those anytime, and we will get to as many as we can. Also, feel free to tweet your questions or comments. We're using the hashtag MSDWDocManagement. That's MSDWDOCMGMT. So without further delay, please allow me to welcome Deborah Rich-Walker.
Well, thank you so much, Jason, for that warm introduction, and thanks so much for everyone out there who's joining us today. Greetings. As Jason mentioned to you, my name is Debbie Rich-Walker, and I'm here today to share some information about our electronic portal, the way we use our portal to settle invoice disputes. So I always like to get started with a little background, sharing some background and some information on our company. As you can see, we were founded in '78, so we're just a little over 30-plus years old. We are the world's largest home improvement retailer. In 2011, we reported $70 billion in sales and $3.8 billion in net income. In terms of stores, you can see that we're a global company. We have about 80-plus stores in Mexico, a handful of stores in China, just under 200 stores in Canada, and the remaining stores in the U.S. And Jason also pointed out that we have a pretty large AP department. I am the process owner for our direct spend, and that's representative of $45 billion, and that equates to about 30 million transactions that we handle annually. So let's take a look at the agenda for today. I want to tell our story, and the way to do that, the best way to do that is to first have an overview, and we're going to focus a little bit on our key performance indicators just to give you a feel for our EI penetration and our match rate. Then we'll talk a little bit about the value proposition. From there, we'll contrast our old process versus our new process, and then the volume impact associated with that. And then we'll spend some time talking and really looking at some screenshots of our new portal. We'll recap with benefits, talk about what's next, and then just wrap up with keys to success, and then I'm sure there'll be plenty of time for Q&A. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So what I wanted to point out here, and I made it a point to really quantify our metrics here to decimal places, because our volume is so large that every decimal place makes a big difference. So as you can see, even though we're a relatively large organization, we are highly electronic. Our EDI penetration is at 99.93%. Of course, our goal is 100%, so we're just a tad shy of that goal. Our match rate is 99.7, and what that means is that is the percentage of times that the invoice comes in, finds a goods receipt, and matches systemically without any human intervention. So my point here is that while we're highly automated on the front end, we had a manual issue on our back end, and well, I'll drill down and share a little bit about that with you in the next coming slides. But before we do that, I think it's important for us to have a bit of a discussion on how we got here. I'm sure that should be on the top of your minds. Well, the first thing I think that's really key is executive sponsorship. I think that's very important. Creating buy-in and executive sponsorship is one of the utmost importance to the keys of our success, because getting the right leaders on board sends a clear message to the organization that the organization is united with its vision. Executive sponsorship also cuts down on wasted time and energy and helps with removing roadblocks. The second thing that I think is key for us is that we have intensified our focus. And as you can see from the previous graph, we have been focusing on our EDI penetration. We've made progress. But in recent years, we have really become very serious about that. So one of the things that we did to intensify our focus is what I actually did was put a person, a dedicated resource, actually on this initiative to work with suppliers to make sure that we achieve our goals. And lastly, governance and compliance. That's really key. I often share the story of the fact that at Home Depot, we simply do not accept paper. In order to accomplish that goal, one of the things we did several years ago is that we put a policy in place where we charge an administrative fee to suppliers for sending in paper, and that fee is $25. And that really, I think, is really what helped move the needle with the penetration, because of course we're not wanting to charge our suppliers fees, but we want them to get on board to an electronic process which translates to a higher percentage of on-time payments and then less time that they have to spend with chasing paper invoices. So it's a win-win scenario for everyone. The other thing that we've done in terms of governance and compliance is that we've actually put some timetables in place. So for example, our suppliers have up to 12 months to submit invoices to us. After 12 months, we do not accept invoices from suppliers. And this is good for both sides because we want to keep our financials current, and we also want the same for our suppliers. So that has actually been huge for us. So executive sponsorship, being committed and intensifying our focus, the governance and compliance piece are all huge wins for our company. So now what I wanted to do is take a look at the value proposition. So why was it important for us to automate it, and what value have we created for our company? Well, over the past 2 years combined, we have saved $1.8 million, of which over $1 million of that we saved the last year. And I'll go into further detail and share with you how we were able to do that. Another way to look at this, because I know there are various size of companies that are on the line with us today. So let's look at this in terms of percentages. What we've actually been able to accomplish is to reduce our costs 21 to 22% consecutively year over year. And we've done this for the past 2 years, which means that we have driven out over 40% of our costs in AP. Another way to look at this is in terms of our return on investment. When I say that our return on investment for our portal is in excess of 200%, that's really conservatively speaking. The next thing I'd like for us to look at, now that we've talked about a little bit about our process here, we're highly automated on our front end, but we had an issue on our back end. So what I wanted to do is to put everybody on the same playing field so we have the same understanding, because I know we have different industries on the phone as well today. So what this slide represents is the P2B high-level AP process flow. So in AP, we spend most of our time on the front end with the invoice receipt, validation, and invoice processing piece. I call that our front end. And that's where our EDI penetration is above 99%. It's near 100%. Our match rate, as we talked about earlier, is 99.2%. So we were doing a great job on the front end, but we had a huge amount of paper on our back end, over 5 million pieces of paper. And you'll also note that we spend 50% of our time on the back end, so this becomes more important to us. In retail, once the supplier receives their check, that's really when the fun starts for accounts payable. Because as you know, if you've been to a Home Depot store, we have over 40,000 products in our stores. And so having 40,000 products in our stores and dealing with thousands and thousands of vendors, it's natural that there's going to be some discrepancies. So when I talk about our dispute claim piece, that's the process in which a supplier can contact us, get a status of their payment. They can submit a claim if they have a discrepancy with pricing, if they feel like we didn't pay the correct price, or if they have a discrepancy with a unit of measure or a goods receipt issue. They can submit those claims through the portal, and we'll research those claims, and we'll make a payment decision on that. So that's what our area of focus is today. So I thought I'd have a little fun with this slide. Anyone who's spent any time in AP could probably appreciate this, because this is exactly where we were just a few years ago. We were drowning in paper. Does anyone know the feeling out there where you feel like you'll never get from under all that paper? Well, to have even more fun with this, let's take a look at what our old process looked like. This slide is very busy, and it's busy on purpose because this is exactly what we went through. So let me walk you through the process. If I draw your attention to the lower left-hand corner of the screen, where it says Start. So the starting point is for our suppliers to first reconcile their account. They get payments from us, they reconcile their account, they see what discrepancies they have, they can determine what invoices have been skipped. And based on that, they would gather their paperwork together, put a claim package together. We used to have a recon cover sheet that they would send. And then they would gather that up. They would need to prepare that package, get the postage, drop it off in the mail. Then from there, it would be sent, more than likely, sometimes over plane, would be picked up by another post office, then make its way to the SSC here at Home Depot. And then once it got to Home Depot, we actually had a mail room, which is actually a third party for us. That mail room, the only technology we had in place was an Access database, and that's what these mailroom associates are doing. They would track the paperwork so that we know how many claims we would have at any given time. We would also assign a package number to that claim, as well as notate the supplier's tracking number as well. So we spent a lot of time doing that. From there, it was picked up, the packages were picked up, and then they were sent to another third party who was responsible for not only data entering our paper invoices that we had, but they also would scan these packages in, index them, and get them ready for our offshore team who resides in India, so that they can, again, index these packages, and then finally they're ready for us to begin work. So if you look at the right-hand corner of the screen, the top right-hand corner, you can see that this was a 40 to 45-day cycle time for us. Unnecessary postage dollars spent by our suppliers, and you can see that there are multiple third parties involved. So now let's take a look at what our new process looks like. So we have a new process that's paper-free. So now we truly have an end-to-end touchless process. We're living the dream of an AP paperless environment. Smiling faces, what you see are happy suppliers to the left with their new tools. And then smiling faces to the right. This is representative of our offshore team that's actually receiving those claims electronically. And so you can see it's a win-win scenario for both sides. We often receive notes and comments from our suppliers stating that they just simply love our portal. And by the way, it's an environmentally sound thing to do. Next thing I wanted to quickly touch on is how were our volumes impacted by our technology improvement. Well, as you can see from our graph, our claims dropped about 50% from the time since we've implemented our portal. So that's been huge for us. Because when you think about it, when you reduce your volumes, what that translates to is less resources that are required, which reduces your cost overall, in addition to less scanning, less imaging, etc. So this was a huge win for us. The other thing I wanted to point out is that we were able to build controls within the portal that only accepts dispute claims when an invoice is past due. So if a supplier attempted to send an invoice to us, a skipped invoice through the portal that was past due, not past due, they wouldn't be able to do that. And if they tried to submit a duplicate claim to us, they would no longer be able to do that as well. So this is an example of how we leverage technology to tighten controls systemically and ultimately improve the overall process. So here's a laundry list of traditional tasks and costs found in AP. Data entry, imaging, paper, indexing, mailroom, IT costs, etc. So these are what I call the primary cost drivers in a paper-based and manual AP process that should be targeted for elimination. I'm happy to be able to say to you that we have successfully eliminated not only these manual process steps, but also the costs that are associated with each one of these cost drivers. So now that we're up to speed on some of our KPIs, you understand our volumes, you understand the difference between our old and our new process, the next thing I wanted to do is to draw our attention onto the portal itself. So first thing I want to mention is that our methodology for deploying the portal is SaaS, which is software as a service methodology. So what this means basically is that we have outsourced our technology. We've customized the portal. We have a technology provider that we use. We extract data out of SAP. We do use SAP for our ERP system. We extract data out of that system. We send that data over. It's encrypted to our technology provider, who uploads that information into the portal. And this is how our suppliers are able to view their paid invoices and submit claims. And I'll show you some screenshots of that on the upcoming slides. So that's key for us, that we chose a hosted cloud technology for our portal. To further drive down the cost, this portal was implemented with just a few good men and women on my team, along with our service provider. We did not use any IT at this point. So this also helps explain the huge return on our investment. So I wanted to really spend a little time and talk about our evolution, because when we first got started with the portal, the only goal that we had in mind was really just to have a means to eliminate all the paper that we had and to provide an electronic tool for our suppliers to submit their invoices in discrepancy, their dispute claims primarily. So that was in 2009. Then in 2010, and by the way, our portal supports our U.S. domestic suppliers, and as you can see in 2010, we added our Canadian suppliers as well. The other thing I wanted to mention, our department not only handles direct spend for our resale items at the store, we also handle RTV transactions, that's return to vendor items, so there could be discrepancies there and suppliers would have to submit claims to us. We also support HD.com, our e-commerce platform, and those suppliers, so they are onboarded onto our portal. We also are responsible for paying our installers, which are our service providers. If you're having carpet installed at your home, for example, we're responsible for paying those service providers. So in 2010, we decided to, hey, you know, we could leverage the portal and we could utilize it as an enabler for process improvement. So we eliminated our manual process for RTVs, and now our suppliers log into our portal and they submit claims for RTVs. We also have, for the very first time, we have great communication with our suppliers. All of their contact information is updated on the portal at any particular time. I can send a message, and that message would reach all suppliers. Not only can I send a message to all suppliers, but I can also have these suppliers log in and find the status of any particular claim that they've submitted, which is huge for us, and that helps with the help desk increase. We also have our chargeback notifications that are up on our portal, and that's a huge win for our company as well, because we had a department here that was responsible for printing out and mailing chargeback notifications. So, for example, if a supplier had a deduction for pricing, if we deducted $10 because we felt that they charged us $10 more for pricing on their invoice than they should, well, we would send a notification to them. Normally it's an EDI notification, but if a supplier was not up on that platform to receive those notifications, we would have to send paper to them. And for the Home Depot back then, that equated to 55 miles of paper that we were printing every single week. So we had a business, this is another example of how we utilized the portal to solve a business problem for another department outside of AP. In 2011, we continued to evolve with our portal and have replaced our help desk with an online feature that we call Contact Us. We onboarded our HD.com suppliers. We are partnered with our Treasury Department last year, and we've launched a discount management pilot. And what that means is that suppliers can log onto our portal, those that are participating in the pilot, and they can have their payments accelerated we can accelerate their payment to them in exchange for additional cash discounts. So this is another way that we are creating value for our company. Last thing we did in 2011 that was pretty exciting is that for the first time we are confident with our process. We have total visibility to what's going on, and now we want to make sure that we continuously improve our process, and a way to do that is to get feedback from our suppliers. So as of last year, we decided that we will launch suppliers, and the supplier surveys are taken directly out of the portal, and we will conduct those on a biannual basis going forward. So you can see at the bottom here, we started off with a dispute portal, have now evolved, rebranded it, and it's now called the Supplier Self-Service Portal. What this slide represents is the old versus new process for the help desk, which we've replaced. The help desk, we have a financial operations help desk that supports our non-merch payables, as well as in the past supported our direct spend AP team. And we've represented about 40 to 50% of their volume. So when we started analyzing why suppliers were calling the help desk, 80% of the time they were just calling in merely just for payment status. So what we decided there, again, why not leverage the portal? And so as you can see, we have reduced our help desk volume by implementing a Contact Us online feature on the help desk by 90%. Once again, another way that we've helped another area, and we've also provided efficiency for our suppliers. So once again, conducting surveys out of the portal, and this is our tool to ensure continuous improvement. So now let's focus and take a little time to take a look at our portal. So one of the questions that you might ask, one of the first questions that would be on my mind would be registration. So how does our suppliers register on our portal? Well, we provide them with instructions of the website that they need to log on to, and it's a self-enrollment, self-authentication process. So they merely log on, and what we ask them is just to provide some information that only they would have, because this is information that we're asking them to enter that's on their remittance device. We have a super user process where one person is enrolled at our suppliers organization, and then in turn they can enroll up to 5 people. And so that really has cut down on any administrative efforts here at Home Depot, and it works quite well. So this is our home page. As you can see, if you look at the left hand, this really gives you a laundry list of really the core menu items of what they can actually do, the key activities. They have an inbox where they can receive messages. And if you just look and follow that to the right-hand, top-hand corner of the screen, you see system alerts. And this is where I was speaking about the fact that I can email and send the suppliers messages at any point. So let's just say if we're having an issue with the system. Rather than leaving the suppliers blind and having to try to contact the help desk or send a lot of messages, I can just merely say, hey, we're having an issue with this. It'll be resolved in the next 6 hours or so, if that's what I wanted to do. Also, you notice that they can view paid invoices. They can view their chargeback notifications. So this is where, if we've charged them back for pricing or shortage, they would merely, they have a list of that. They would click on those items, and I'll share that with you momentarily. They can also submit invoices with proof of delivery documentation. They can submit their RTV packages, etc. So I also circled the Contact Us feature because I wanted to share that with you. So if a supplier wanted to contact us for online assistance, and I've forbidden them to call the help desk because this is their new tool, they would click on Contact Us, and the very next screen that would appear would be the Contact Us screen. Next slide is recapping some benefits. I'm not going to go through every one of them, but some of the key benefits for us is that we reduced our cycle time by 75%. That 40 to 45-day process now takes 10 days. We've talked about the value proposition. We've saved a tremendous amount of dollars for our company and for our shareholders. The fact that we increased our accuracy by eliminating duplicates. We are continuing to find ways to assist and collaborate with other business units, such as Treasury. So what's next for 2012? Well, I mentioned earlier that we're in pilot mode with this discount management with Treasury. We decided to look at this pilot for 18 months, and I can tell you that it's been very lucrative. We are over $1 million in terms of additional discounts that suppliers have offered as a result of this technology. And just to spend a little bit of time there, a lot of companies use supply chain financing. We've gone with a discount management model because our organization is cash rich. We've decided not to use a bank, so we're operating as our own bank. So we are leveraging our technology that we're using today for other applications, so that lowers our costs. And we're, again, just offering a tool to suppliers if they have a need to accelerate payments. So it's been a huge win for both sides. We plan to not only provide the suppliers with visibility to their paid invoices, but also their approved invoices that are not yet paid but waiting for their due date. Today, they can get this information, but they would have to submit a request for it. So this we feel would be a huge win and would close the loop on every single thing that a supplier could possibly need to reconcile their account. We plan to onboard our installers to the portal this year. We are working with another area of the company, our at-home services team. That's the team and organization that manages our service providers. Once again, we talked about that installer that could be going into your home to install carpet. We're responsible for making those payments, and we want to give them the same visibility and tools that we have provided to our suppliers. We talked about the fact that we continue to look for ways to add value and to help and collaborate with our business partners in other areas and further drive efficiencies and bottom line savings. So last thing I'll leave you with, just 15 minutes left on the call. What do I feel are the keys to sustainable success? First thing is right people. I mentioned to you earlier we've accomplished huge bottom line savings for our company. We've taken out about 40% of our costs over the last 2 years in AP, just with just a few men and women that are on our team. I only have 12 people here on shore, but we have a very talented group of people here. And I think that's very important to our success. Then the right process. I always make a point that I am a firm believer and a huge supporter of process improvement methodologies such as Six Sigma and Lean. Have that experience, use it day to day, but we would not have been able to take a quantum leap without automating. And so here what I'm saying is that I believe it's the combination of process improvement and automation that really is going to sustain you with success over time. And then lastly, the right technology. We believe that we do have the right technology. We have technology that's cost effective, it's flexible and easy to use. With that being said, I leave you with our value wheel from the Home Depot. These are all of the things that our company stands for. And you can see creating shareholder value and providing excellent customer service, which we feel that we're providing to our suppliers and installers is a way to uphold our values. So with that being said, what questions do you have? I'll turn it back over to Jason at this point. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Debbie. That was really a great look at what you've been working on and some of the achievements you've had there. As Debbie said, we do invite you to ask questions. The Q&A tab over on the right is the place to do it, and enter your questions now for Debbie Richwalker. Debbie, I did have one question myself, and related to some of your next steps and related to expanding into other business units. How much is defining, for other business units if they have document automation needs, how much is the idea of sort of really defining the process and being able to automate that process a key to, let's say, another business unit sort of adopting some of the technology that you've already developed?
Yeah, well, I think that's key. I think you definitely have to define your process, because at every given step, even through our automation, when I've made decisions as to whether we should onboard, and utilize our technology, we always have to start with a predefined process. I always take a look at where are we today, and if I decide to automate this process, what am I going to get in return? So part of that is, looking at just like we did before, what was the previous state and what is the future state? And I always make sure that if I'm going to leverage the technology, that it's going to be a positive ROI situation. And that's the same thing that I ensure that we're doing with our other business units, because it is a cost. We're really just trading. What I've done is traded the cost of the portal, the cost of outsourcing the technology, and with eliminating all those other costs. So every time we meet with our business partner, we need to do the same thing. We need to do the ROI.
We have a couple of questions here in the queue. The first one, how many vendors do you have?
We have, of course, we're a seasonal business, so right now spring is our business season, but so we have different vendors that we use different times of the year. But I would say in AP we have probably about 100 vendors that represent maybe 70% of the process, but we have upwards of 20,000 vendors that we deal with. Overall, there are 5,000 users that are registered on our portal.
All right, and a follow-on question is, do you pay via ACH or paper checks?
Yes, we allow our suppliers the ability to be paid with ACH or check. We encourage them, of course, to receive the ACH payment, but that involves being onboarded to the EDI ACH process. So right now, we have a pretty good penetration with ACH. I think it's about 80%.
You mentioned 100 sort of the biggest vendors. Does that relationship impact the way certain vendors use the self-service portal versus others, and have you sort of adjusted anything to that in that regard?
Well, no. We one of the things that we talked about earlier was the corporate mandates. So what we try to do is I try not to create any exception processes. So that applies for major suppliers. That's how I'm statusing the suppliers that you're talking about right now. So yes, everyone has to use the portal. I don't make any exceptions. But now what I do in terms of accommodating major suppliers is that we make sure we have a single point of contact offshore for all major suppliers. So if a major supplier, they know how to use the portal, they use it day to day for their account reconciliation, but if they have unique challenges, then they know who that contact is on their team, but I still tell them they need to go through Contact Us to utilize that. But outside of the process, on a quarterly basis, they're having conversation with these major suppliers, to be proactive.
We have a couple other questions here that I'm just seeing come in. One of them was, what was the time to implement back in 2009? So I guess the question is time to implement. From
how much time did it
from the beginning? Yeah, I think that's the question. How much time went into actually building out the portal in 2009 before you launched it?
Yeah, actually, it took a little while because we customized this. This is something that we built, and so it was really a dream for us. It was nothing that we saw on a shelf and we purchased. So we had to make sure that we had a service provider that could build our vision. And so they had to come down and they walked our process, and they said that they could build what we were looking for. We also involved our suppliers as kind of beta testers to make sure that what we were designing worked for them. So we picked about 6 of our different size vendors to have them participate as beta testers, but it took us about 6 weeks.
Okay, let's see, another question here. Let me see if I can sort of paraphrase this one. Do you save each invoice electronically for the filing? Let's see here. We'll pull up invoices from this. So are you saving invoices electronically and pulling them up electronically and sort of never touching physical invoices? Is that
yeah, we're not touching physical invoices.
Okay, good. I hope I sort of interpreted that question correctly from the person who submitted it.
Right. I think we receive something like, on average, less than 10 invoices per day. But with this process on the portal, no, everything is electronic. There's no paper involved. In terms of what our associates are working with. And we have workflow that's built in with the technology, and that's how our team is working.
And I think one other sort of related question here, I think you might have covered this, but is the self-service portal really is becoming your main portal. It's not just it's not an AP only tool anymore. Maybe it started out more like that, but it sounds like it's really evolved into something that is becoming a real portal for a lot of centralized activity. Is that
Yes.
true?
For a lot of centralized activities, particularly if they pertain to accounts payable, in our direct spend, and any of the, service providers and suppliers that we support.
Okay. Great. Well, one last chance here, last call, I think, for new question. Oh, here's one more question here. Can vendors run reports in the portal to see their own information?
Okay. Well, the vendors, they don't have a need to run reports to see their own information. They can use the advanced search tool if they're trying to pull up like a range of invoices. So let's just say if there were 200 invoices or like, let's say 50 invoices that they wanted to see, and it was a range, they can put in that range of invoices, and those would appear at one time, or they can just put in individual invoices and they can see. So I think what he's saying in terms of reports is really using the advanced search capability, because there are no reports to run other than that report that I mentioned for approved invoices, because right now they can see their paid invoices. They don't have a listing of their approved invoices that are waiting to be paid. So they can request via our Contact Us, they can request a report of their approved invoices. But other than that, there are no reports on the portal, because reports aren't needed, because they have access to their own personal information. So when a supplier logs in, they're only seeing their information. And they're already, so if they click on paid invoices, they're going to get a list of their paid invoices. And if they want to scroll through that list, they use the advanced search.
Okay. I think we will end it there. Again, last call, and well, here's one more from Nagendra. Is this portal used to process and account the invoices too, or is it just for the sharing of information? So I guess maybe that gets to sort of the back-end activity.
Yes, yes, we the portal. So if we went back to the point where the AP team begins their work, so the AP team is still performing the same work, but instead of getting the paper in, they're looking at it electronically. So when we had the process on shore, we would physically have the paper, and everybody would flip through the paper, and we would make a payment decision. When we offshored, which was just probably 5 years ago prior to the portal, then now we had an offshore team, so the paper that was here in Atlanta had to be picked up by our third party and indexed so that they can see them, and then they would index the images and start their work. So the portal gives them a tool to see those images, and we have workflow, and we have it organized by merchandising department. So, for example, if they're in Department 25 and they handle hardware suppliers, that's all that that particular associate would see. And each associate can we have profiles set up. But, yes, all the crux of this is that, yes, they're performing their work on the portal, utilizing the portal. And even when they hit approve for those invoices, it sends a file of all approved invoices for the day to us so that we can upload them into our system for payment. So, yes, the portal is self-contained, and there's no other activities for AP that's performed outside of the portal.
And just the one follow-up that I see here, is it integrated back to accounting ERP? I know you talked about integrating data from ERP to the portal. I assume that decisions made in the portal then make their way back.
Yeah, the decisions are made in the portal, and what I've done to eliminate the manual data entry, which would be the output of this. So in a manual paper environment, you would make payment decisions, and you would say, okay, all these vouchers are approved for payment, and then you would perhaps pass it off to someone who would then data enter it. So what I've done, again, here, utilizing the technology, if I have all of the data electronically, if I have full visibility to everything, then what I can do is create, for example, an Excel spreadsheet, give me a download of all that information, put it in a file format that can be uploaded to SAP, and there's various tools that you can do to accomplish that, and then have our analysts just upload the file in lieu of data entering the information. So that's part of the process improvement and enabling the technology.
All right. Well, let's end it there. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, Debbie.
That's where you have to be creative when you design, the portal. This is all.
Sure. All right. Well, we will end it there, I think. Thanks again, Debbie. This is really a treat for us, and I think everyone on the phone really got a lot out of it.
Well,
so thanks to you also in the audience for attending today. We will be making this available on demand at some point in the future, and we'll share that information with you. Thanks again, and thanks for attending today, and thanks again to Debbie.
You're quite welcome.
And have a great day. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.